Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Miss English podcast. I am your host, Socheta, and I am so thrilled you decided to spend your time with us today because we are talking about something that is going to change the way you live your life.
Hello, Socheta, and hello to all our listeners. It is a true honor to be here. Today's topic, disciplining your thinking, is something I feel very deeply about because it truly is the foundation of all success and peace.
You know, Mr. Saroon, when we say disciplining your thinking, it sounds a bit intense. It almost sounds like we are being strict or mean to ourselves. Can you explain what that actually means in a friendly way?
That is a wonderful question. Think of your mind like a garden. If you do not plant flowers and pull out the weeds will take over naturally. Disciplining your thinking is not about being a drill sergeant to your brain. It is about being a wise gardener. It is the conscious choice to focus on thoughts that grow you and let go of the ones that hold you back.
Oh, I love that image, a gardener of the mind. But honestly, sometimes I feel like my mind is a jungle, not a garden. It feels like my thoughts are just running wild, especially the negative ones. Why is it so hard to control them?
It feels hard because our brains are actually wired for survival, not necessarily for happiness. We are naturally biased to look for threats and problems. It takes zero effort to worry, but it takes a lot of intentionality to stay positive. It is a muscle, Socheta. If you do not train it, it stays weak.
That makes so much sense. So if I want to start training this thought muscle today, where do I even begin? Is there a first step for someone who feels overwhelmed by their own inner critic?
The very first step is awareness. You cannot change what you do not notice. Most of us live our lives on autopilot. We have about 60,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are the same ones we had yesterday. You have to start observing your thoughts as if you are a third person. When a negative thought pops up, instead of believing it, just say, "Oh, there's that thought again."
So it's like becoming a watcher? I find that when I catch myself thinking something negative, like, I'm not good enough for this job, I get even more upset with myself for having that thought. It becomes a cycle.
Exactly. And that is the trap. You are judging yourself for having thoughts. Discipline is about observation without judgment. When you see that not good enough thought, you don't fight it. You just acknowledge it and then intentionally choose a different thought. It is like changing the channel on a television.
I love the idea of changing the channel, but sometimes the signal is so strong, it's hard to find the new station. How do we make those positive thoughts feel more real, especially when we are going through a tough time?
That is where the discipline part really comes in. You have to feed your mind the right materials. Just like you wouldn't expect to be healthy if you only ate junk food, you cannot expect a disciplined mind if you only consume mental junk. What are you reading? Who are you listening to? What kind of conversations are you having? Your environment dictates your inner dialogue.
Reflectively, wow, that hits home. I realize I spend a lot of time scrolling through social media, and honestly, half the time I end up feeling worse about myself afterward. Is that considered mental junk?
Unfortunately, yes. Social media is often a comparison trap. Disciplining your thinking means setting boundaries for your eyes and ears. If a certain app or a certain person consistently leaves you feeling drained or anxious, the disciplined choice is to limit that exposure. You are protecting your peace.
With determination, I need to be more protective of my peace, for sure. Mr. Saroon, what about those what-if thoughts? You know, the ones where we imagine the worst-case scenario over and over again. How do we discipline those?
Calmly. The what-if spiral. When you find yourself in a what-if loop, you must counter it with even if. Instead of just asking, what if I fail? You say, even if I fail, I will learn something and I will be okay. It takes the power away from the fear. It brings you back to your own strength.
Even if. That is so powerful. It feels like I'm giving myself a safety net. It makes the world feel a little less scary.
It truly does. Another practical tool is what I call the 5-minute rule. If you are worrying about something, give yourself exactly 5 minutes to feel it deeply. Set a timer. Cry, scream, worry. But when that timer goes off, you must pivot. You must do something productive or think of a solution. You give the emotion its moment, but you don't let it move in and pay rent.
I love that. Don't let it move in and pay rent. My mind has had too many bad tenants lately. I think a lot of our listeners are students or professionals who feel a lot of pressure. What role does gratitude play in this mental discipline?
Passionately. Gratitude is the ultimate discipline. It is the shortcut to a healthy mind. It is impossible to feel fearful and grateful at the exact same moment. They cannot occupy the same space. When you discipline your mind to look for things to be grateful for, even small things like a good cup of coffee or a sunrise, you are literally rewiring your brain's neural pathways to look for the good.
It sounds so simple, yet it's something we forget when things get busy. I want to challenge myself and our listeners to find 3 things every morning, just 3 things to be thankful for before we even check our phones.
That is a perfect start, Socheta. Consistency is key. You wouldn't go to the gym once and expect a six-pack. Mental discipline is a daily practice. Some days you will fail, and that's okay. The discipline is in starting again the next day without shaming yourself.
That is such a good reminder. Be kind to yourself while being firm with your focus. Mr. Saroon, before we wrap up, do you have one final piece of advice for someone who feels like their thoughts are their own worst enemy?
With deep sincerity, yes. Remember that you are not your thoughts. You are the one hearing them. You have the power to choose which thoughts to keep and which to let pass like clouds in the sky. You are the master of your internal world, even if it doesn't feel like it yet. Keep practicing. Peace is a choice you make over and over again.
With emotion. Thank you so much, Mr. Saroon. I feel so much more empowered after this conversation. And thank you to all of you for listening to the Miss English podcast. Remember, you are the gardener of your mind. Choose your thoughts wisely and let them bloom. Until next time, stay positive and keep growing.
Cheerfully, goodbye everyone, and keep nurturing those beautiful gardens of yours.